It's working now.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the virtual Pasco County EMS Advisory Board meeting of June 29th, 2020. Also, welcome to Dr. Andrew Paliga, representing Commission District 1 and replacing Dr. David Wilcher. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. He's on the screen. Can you hear us, Dr. Paliga?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I'm having problems with the mic.
Not working again?
No. You can try now.
Just be patient. Okay, Madam Clerk, after our technical glitch has been fixed, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Here.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Here.
Dr. Gregory Smith, Dr. Charles Boothby,
Boothby.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Here.
Dr. Scott Skurlock,
We're not hearing you, Dr. Skurlock. I see you moving your lips, but I don't hear anything.
Unmute your line.
thank you, and Dr. Joseph
Here.
Pino.
And I'm here.
Sorry, Dr. Quinn.
Okay. All right, Ms. Fagan, could you please go over the procedures applicable to this meeting?
Thank you, on March 20, 2020, on March 20, 2020, continuing or?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's new. Okay. On March 20, 2020, Governor DeSantis issued Executive Order 20-69, which has been extended by Executive Order 20-114, which suspended any Florida statute that requires a quorum to be present in person or requires a local governmental entity to meet in a specific public place. The order allowed the Board of County Commissioners, its advisory boards, and committees created by the board and subject to the Florida Sunshine Law to meet virtually, utilizing communications media technology. Even with Executive Order 20-112, the governor's safe, smart, step-by-step order, large gathering of over 10 people are not permitted to congregate in any public space that does not readily allow for appropriate social distancing based on these directives, I should say. The conduct of a regular meeting would certainly not meet the spirit of the intent of the orders. The process has been established by the Board of County Commissioners for the use of technology to proceed in a manner as such, like in-kind meetings, to limit, rather, in-person meetings as much as possible. The Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 20-118 on April 21st, 2020, establishing the procedural rules for virtual meetings for all advisory boards and committees under the Board of County Commissioners, as well as for its own meetings, such as the one being held today. A detailed advertisement was run in the Tampa Bay Times indicating the advisory board's intent to conduct a virtual meeting. As with any meeting at which you must take action, you are required to take public comment on any proposition pursuant to section 286.0114 Florida statutes. Available for any questions anyone may have with respect to the process.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Boothby has joined us. Madam. Okay. We're going to move on to election of officers. The chairman position is vacant due to the resignation and then passing of Dr. Dawn Verling. I've been on the board and have served as a vice chair and have chaired many meetings, so I have no objection to moving on up to chairman. That would leave the vice chair and the secretary, and of course, chairman needs your approval for the vote. So, Ms. Fagan, should we vote one at a time?
Yes, you may take, I would recommend you take,
The clerk will take roll. That's usually how they do it.
Right, but we should nominate one at a time, correct? Okay, so nominations for the floor for chairman.
I make the nomination, Dr. Joe Pino, to be the new chair.
Thank you.
I second.
I'm sorry, could you state your name for the record? Could you state your name for the record, please?
Andrew Paliga.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Yes.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Yes.
Dr. Gregory Smith, Dr. Charles Boothby,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Yes.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Yes.
Dr. Joseph Pino.
I'll abstain.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Next, we'll have nominations for vice chair. Someone?
I'd like to nominate Dr. Yontek.
For the new members of the board, this is Jane Fagan with the County Attorney's Office. This board generally only meets once a year, so possibly up to twice a year. Generally, the beginning of the year, after the application period, which ends January 1st, occurs. So just so you have an understanding of that commitment, you be involved in being an officer of this board.
I'll accept. That's fine.
Great. Madam Clerk?
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Good.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Yes.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
I'll abstain.
Dr. Gregory Smith, Dr. Charles Boothby,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Yes.
Dr. Scott Skurlock,
Yes.
Dr. Joseph Pino.
Yes. Congratulations. Okay, next
Thank you.
is secretary. Would like to fill all of the slots tonight. Do I have any nominations from the floor for secretary? Someone say something?
I'll nominate Dr. Paliga.
I'll second that.
Great. So we have a nomination and a second for Dr. Paliga. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
I'll abstain.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Yes.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Yes.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Yes.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
Yes. Great. So the new offices will be myself as chairman, Dr. Yontek as vice chair, and Dr. Paliga as secretary. Great, thank you. Okay, now is the time for public comment. Citizens are given an opportunity to comment on any item coming before the board during this public comment section. The board also takes public comment on items to be placed on a future board agenda or other business under their purview. Due to COVID-19 operations and to safeguard the well-being and safety of our community and staff, today's public comment will be handled differently. First, we will take public comment from callers that have pre-registered and are currently on queue. After, we will read into the record public comments, documents, PowerPoints, or videos that have been identified by members of the public to be read aloud or played at the meeting, not to exceed 3 minutes for each. This new format does not waive the request that when you address the board, that comments are not directed personally against a board or team member, but rather directed at the issues. This provides mutual respect between the board members and the public. For those participants calling in, after stating your name and address for the clerk, the timer will be activated and will start a countdown. After 2 minutes, one beep will sound, letting you know that only 1 minute remains. After the time is up, 2 beeps will sound, indicating the 3 minutes are up. Please note that calls will be disconnected after the 3-minute mark. Madam Clerk, do we have any pre-registered to speak or any emails to read into the record?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, Jane Biggett, the county attorney's office. I would just like to point out that this is generally considered a general public comment section. We have a number of parties signed up. They also have the option of they can speak at this point, and they can also speak, particularly for specific applications. They can also speak later. It's up to them whether they want to speak at those times or defer their comments.
And from an IT perspective, if they need to speak the second time, then they're going to have to call back in, because once we hang this up, it hangs them up.
Okay.
For those of you listening.
Well, it would be more beneficial to me for those applicants that have an application in front of me to hear their comments at that time. Okay, that said, let's proceed.
Please state your name.
Kate Brusick.
You can go ahead and start.
Good evening. This is Kate Brusick. I'm the administrator at Sunshine Christian Homes, 5250 Whippoorwill Drive, Holiday. I'm here to address the Pasco County Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board meeting. Thank you for this opportunity. Prior to being called to Sunshine Christian Homes, I was a nurse and regional director for HPH Hospice, directing operations on both the east and west side of Pasco, and the parent of a Pasco County firefighter and EMT, and so it is from this perspective that I address this gathering. MedFleet has consistently provided us with conscientious and reliable service. They have truly been our partner in caring for our vulnerable elderly population. When we speak with dispatch, we are given a reliable timeline until arrival. When the crew arrives, they are professionally attired, particularly in this COVID environment. They address the resident in a manner that is courteous and respectful. They demonstrate quality skills and work to help our residents feel safe and cared for as they are headed to the hospital. In my years in Pasco, I've been pleased with the growth and opportunities that have developed. I respect MedFleet for hiring locally and for instilling in their employees that every patient should be treated as if they were treating their own loved one. That same growth has seen the business models of Advent Health and Medical Center Trinity add their own ambulance services to create a competitive market and choices for Pasco residents. But it seems that adding additional companies at this time is highly unnecessary. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken its toll on our friends, families, and businesses. I commend the leadership of Pasco for their guidance. That toll, however, continues to be evident throughout healthcare, with decreased long-term care censuses, fewer hospital transports for fear of encountering COVID, and a greatly reduced number of non-essential procedures. Now is not the time to expand medical transport services when the needs of the residents of Pasco are not being just met, but are being exceeded with our current providers. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this proceeding, and have a good evening.
Please state your name. Please state your name.
My name is Jordan Miller, calling on behalf of American Medical Response. I was calling to address the application of AmeriCare and also the application of TransCare. So I don't know if I should call back. I know there was some discussion about that just a few minutes ago, but I could not really hear it that well.
Yes, please call back.
Okay, so should I call back at the time that the application comes up, or should I just hang up and call back now?
If you call back in about 5 minutes, please.
Okay, all right, I will do that.
Thank you.
A few minutes ago, but
I'm going to assume we're going to talk on the next one, or should we just ask?
We'll ask them.
Ready?
If you call back in about 5 minutes.
okay, all right, I will do that.
Please state your name,
Andrew Williams,
address.
5334 Sunset Road, Newport Richey, 34652.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Andrew Williams from MedFleet. I'd like to defer my comments until the applicants come up for their. Sorry, the delay I'm dealing with here, but I'd like to defer my comments until later.
Okay, can you please call back in about 5 minutes?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know who that would be on.
Health is what they're showing up at.
So that is probably for the applicant.
So then we'll continue. There's nobody else on.
So that concludes.
That concludes your
the
public
vote.
comments, sir.
Okay. We'll conclude the general public comment portion of the meeting and move on to approving the minutes from the last meeting. So may I have a motion to approve last meeting's minutes?
I approve.
Second? Okay. Gotcha, Charlie. Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Roll call vote.
It's a roll call vote.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Aye.
Dr. Frederick Jontek,
Aye.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Aye.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Aye.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Aye.
Dr. Joseph Pino.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opening of the public hearings. Now we'll proceed with the regular public hearing items. Madam Clerk, could you please present the proof of publication, Tampa Bay Times?
Yes, the item was published in the Tampa Bay Times on June 14th, 2020.
Okay, thank you. The purpose of tonight's public hearings is for the consideration for the following applications. AmeriCare Ambulance Services Incorporated, authorization for the COP-CNS to provide advanced life support, interfacility, transport service, and basic life support transport. Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, doing business as TransCare Medical Transportation, authorizations for COP-CNS to provide advanced life support, interfacility transport service, and basic life support transport. MedTrans, doing business as Bayflight, authorization for COP-CN for advanced life support, air medical transport. Amendment of the COP-CN currently held by Rocky Mountain Holdings, LLC, DBA, Bayflight, relating to the provision of advanced life support air medical transport in Pasco County to reflect a change in ownership of the current COP-CN holder to Rocky Mountain Holdings, LLC, DBA, Airlife. Each public hearing item will be heard and acted on separately by the board by roll call vote. As part of each public hearing, presentations will be made by staff and the applicant, and then I will call for public comment by subject. At the conclusion of public comment, the board will discuss the application under consideration amongst themselves and then vote on that application. Rather than manually filling in and completing the voting forms you have been provided, each board member will be asked as part of a roll call vote to orally state their vote on each of the criteria listed on the voting forms and to state their cumulative vote to approve or disapprove or add conditions to the application before them. These same procedures will apply to all of the public hearings held for each of the applications on the board's agenda. Okay, I call to order the public hearing on the COP-CN application of AmeriCare Ambulance Services Incorporated to provide advanced life support, interfacility transport service, and basic life support transport. Staff report and recommendation.
As a matter of housekeeping, I just want to make sure that under the Portage County Commissioners virtual meeting rules, any comments from the applicants or public interest in these applications were due at 5 p.m. the day before this meeting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because that was a Sunday,
Yeah.
there was a delay in transmitting these documents to you and the other members of the board. And we just want to make sure that the board is comfortable, that it had an opportunity to review the documents and is comfortable moving forward with, they have the option to move forward with all or some of these public hearings as they see fit. But again, we just want to make sure the board is comfortable and they've had an adequate time to review.
Okay. Did you want to do that by roll call or?
I think it's just a matter of discussion at this point, whether the board is interested. It's you know,
Okay.
or if they would like to.
All right. Well, I personally have no objection with proceeding tonight on these items, but I would certainly take advice from the rest of the board. So any comments?
This is Frederick Jontek. I'm fine either way of proceeding tonight, or if somebody had some issue that they wanted to review some in more detail, I could go either way. That's fine.
Sure.
I don't have a strong feeling either way.
Okay. Anyone else?
This is, I'm good with moving forward as well.
Okay, thank you. So I think we'll move on then.
The consensus of the board is to move forward. Will you proceed then?
Okay, Mr. Youngblood, you're up.
All right, good evening, board members. My name is Jeff Youngblood. I'm the executive officer for AmeriCare Ambulance. I've worked for AmeriCare since its inception 23 years ago. Started my emergency medical services since 1990, working both in the pre-hospital, private ambulance, and the hospital air medical dispatch centers settings. I'm here tonight representing AmeriCare Ambulance as it seeks to attain an initial certificate of public convenience and necessity for advanced life support and facility transport license and a basic life support and a facility transport license. Just one question I have, are you going to be moving the slides or am I?
I will be moving them. You just need to let me know the next slide.
All right, next slide. AmeriCare Ambulance ownership is a two-family locally owned and operated business. Controlling families are the Masons and the Carrs. Each family has 5 members associated with their side of the families. Managing partner for the Masons is James Mason, and the managing partner for the Carrs is Carr, who all live in the greater Tampa Bay area. And with their age diversity in our ownership ranging from the low 30s to up to 90 years old, we can the different generations to better understand each other's views and values. Next slide. As with our ownership, all executive staff live in the Tampa Bay area. Our current executive staff has a combined 100 years of EMX experience. The administrative and operations director work hand in hand daily to coordinate our field dispatch and office operations. Next slide. AmeriCare Ambulance was incorporated in December of 1996 and began ambulance operations in Hillsborough County on April of 1997. Airforce headquarters is located in Sefner, Florida. Is currently licensed in Hillsborough and Polk counties, employing over 200 personnel. Our fleet consists of 10 ALS ambulances, 31 BLS ambulances, 5 non-medical vehicles. Primary mission, AmeriCare specializes in hospital-to-hospital transfers, hospital discharges, freestanding ER to hospital transfers, and we are also in Hillsborough County, a 911 backup for emergency services. Next slide. AmeriCare has several different services we provide. We provide advanced life support services. All of our ALS vehicles are critical care ambulances, which ensures patients receive nonstop care and monitoring of critical patients with critical care paramedics using the latest Zoll X series cardiac monitors, Zoll EMV plus critical care transport ventilators, and the Alaris Med System 3 infusion pumps. Our BLS units are staffed with medically trained technicians who can quickly assess patients' needs and help stabilize patients in emergency situations. Next slide. AmeriCare has over 250 years of executive management experience in the emergency medical services. Since 1997, AmeriCare Ambulance has responded to over 850,000 calls for ambulance services, 62,000 of those being advanced life support services, and 788,000 being basic life support. Of that, 418,000 are interfacility and 375,000 are 911 backup services for Hillsborough County. Next slide. The public need. AmeriCare was approached by Jeff Bogue, the director of EMS for Advent Health West Florida Division, in the middle of 2019 to see if we would be interested in expanding into Pasco County because of their growing concerns of extended response times and availability of the two existing private providers now. Advent Health facilities include 3 hospitals in Wesley Chapel, Dade City, and Zephyr Hills. Their one freestanding ER in Central Pasco, and then also their long-term care facility in Connerton. In the process of asking us to move up to Pasco, Advent Health has asked us to participate in a regional partnership. Looking to develop that partnership in the Central Florida because of our strong working partnership we have had in Hillsborough County over the past decade. Advent Health and AmeriCare is finalizing phase 1 of that regional partnership for Hillsborough County, which consists of the 4 facilities. 2 are hospitals at the Hospital of Tampa and Carewood, and 2 are from the freestandings at West Chase and Brandon. Phase 2 of that partnership will include Pasco. Pasco County's population over the past decade has seen a steady population growth for 2 to 3%, making Pasco the 12th most populous county in Florida. 31% of the Pasco population is over 60 years of age, with 4% of that being 85. AmeriCare's core business follows Pasco's elderly population, with 6% of our patient transports are over the age of 60, and 18% of that has been of the ages over 85. Part of servicing the county is we also provide emergency dispatch response, disaster response, sorry. AmeriCare continues to support the state of Florida in the deployment of the emergency disaster force teams with responses to the past 3 hurricanes, Matthew, Dora, and Irma, providing over 1,200 unit hours of coverage. With the ongoing COVID-19 missions, we have participated in Pasco, Hillsborough, and Charlotte counties, currently serving over 150 hours to date of time for units. And 4 years ago, we supplied 10 ambulances for the immediate transfers of Bayonet Point Hospital when it caught on fire. So that would be my presentation. We look forward to serving Pasco County, and if there's any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you.
This is Tim Reardon of Fire Rescue. Staff confirmed the applicant has met all the application criteria and there was no cause for denial if need is demonstrated.
Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. Did we not approve an ambulance service interfacility for Advent Health so that they could transport their patients from their freestanding to their Wesley Chapel Hospital?
Yes, so Florida Hospital has a ambulance service here, but I believe in the presentation they're also looking to partner with someone else to backfill in case they can't make it in a timely fashion.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Should we put our questions in now or wait until after the comments from public?
It's up to you. I mean, certainly you can ask the applicant the questions now.
You can ask him now because we're going to vote.
Wonderful.
After public comments, yes.
Mr. Youngblood, this is Todd Yontek. A question for you. On your slide, you noted that you provided neonatal care. Are you looking at neonatal care in Pasco County? Because there is no neonatal providers in Pasco at this time, so that would be very nice.
Currently, right now, we provide neonatal service for Tampa General Hospital. It's with their teams, so we're the vehicle mode of transportation.
And continuing with questions, do you have like an average response time that you keep metrics on, and typically what you get a call and what time you service that in Hillsborough County?
Yes, we have several different metrics, emergency responses that we do for freestandings within the response time is 20 minutes. And then our basic life support non-emergency is within an hour.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the BLS times.
Is within the hour.
Okay, less than an hour. And then looking through your financial applications, your application for the entire COPCN, and one of the things we are supposed to look at is financial capabilities. And I noticed that there was no 2018 financial statements present. Looks like it stops at 2017. Can you comment on that, or is there? I'm sure there's nothing out of the ordinary, but I just was wondering how come there wasn't a 2018 statement.
I believe we sent in 2 notifications, 2 years, but let me pull it up.
We got 2016 and 2017. And I believe there's pro formas for 2021. Sorry, it's my accountant background coming out.
Hey, this is Chief Burton. So he sent in 2, but this has been going on since January. So I don't believe that 19s would have been completed in the time for them to be ready for the application. If that's what you're asking, I think that's what you're asking.
I was looking for 2018, but I mean, their performance has been fine in the past. So just wanted to have a public confirmation that there was no issues going on in 2018. That's why they didn't show them.
No, we do not. And just to let you know, we're a debt-free company. So we carry no debt.
Yes, I can see. And then my last question was, I'm gonna address to every single applicant tonight. So I guess they can get forewarning on that too. As a big issue is billing, and everybody says they have very compassionate billing policies. But I guess the first question I want to put out there is, do you balance bill? And that means, for the record, for people who don't understand, the defined balance billing is to charge an additional fee to the client or the patient, even if there was insurance paid on the bill.
Yeah, we bill every patient following Medicare standard guidelines of on primary payers, their secondaries, and then patients are responsible for any copay or deductible that they would have to pay.
But you accept third-party reimbursement, or you go and balance bill to the patient after that? If it's an agreed upon, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they pay, do you still balance bill the patient, or you take what's been allocated?
No, we have no contracts with any insurance provider, so we bill insurance, and then the patients are responsible for the remaining portion of their deductible or
Okay. So I take that if there is balance billing if the insurance company doesn't cover what your bill is.
that keeps in the same guidelines as the Medicare coverage, that we don't treat any patient differently.
Okay.
I just
Concludes my questions.
sorry. I just wanted to clarify one of the first questions that Dr. Yontek had mentioned, and so you're working with people generally. You just strictly provide the ambulance for the services of neonatal care, so you don't have subsequent ambulances that would be available to use outside of the Tampa General system?
No, all of our ambulances are able to provide neonatal transfers. Our ALS trucks, since they're all critical care. Tampa General has a special system that they use. They have different stretchers. So we have 2 dedicated trucks for Tampa General, but all of our ALS trucks are neonatal capable if a secondary team is to be used from a hospital.
And you have staff medically capable of transporting neonatals outside of the staff that's provided by Tampa General?
No, not neonatal certified. All the patient care for neonatals comes from the NICU transport teams that we pick up at the hospitals.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Dr. Pino, this is Mike. I have probably more of a question for staff. You know, I look around and it's, I'm one of the old guys now, but in the past when we review these applications, we typically get some kind of an understanding of need and what is the need from based on really Mr. Kaysen and Tim on response times and what it has been in the past to help us decide whether whether there's a community need for those additional services. And I don't know if Tim or someone can kind of address, because that's really been the driving force in the past, at least for my decision making.
Right, exactly. Tim?
So currently in the Florida hospital setting, and I don't know if anyone from Florida hospital had signed up to speak to
We're
a
going to
need.
get to that next.
Yeah, but so for us, when we branched or came back and pulled ourselves out of the interfacility transport business as much as we could, and the 2 companies that are currently doing it, they've gotten our transports. We probably do at peak time, so say February, we were in the vicinity of about 15 to 20 transports that month. But here recently, now there has been a downturn in transporting patients between facilities, but we're down to no more than 5 2 months ago and 10 this past month. So while they haven't completely taken care of all of the services, they've put a dent in what we were doing in the past. So to say, do I need another service here? I'm the fire rescue, right? We always need more resources, right? So we want to be able to do it as fast as possible all the time. And more resources usually means we'll get that done. But we do receive requests for us to do the job because the hospitals are being told it'd be 2 to 3 hours before a transport could be sent to them. And that's across all the hospitals. Except for actually Florida Hospital. Florida Hospital doesn't call us much because they've been able to take care of it in-house.
Okay. That answer your question, Mike?
Yep, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this is a public hearing. Do we have people pre-registered on this item? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Miller, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Jordan Miller, address 100 North Tampa Street, Suite 3700.
Okay, you may start your comment.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for letting me speak on this issue. I'm an attorney with the law firm Mills Pastor Divers, and I'm here speaking on behalf of American Medical Response, which is one of the existing providers that was just discussed. And I wanted to just pick up on that need issue. We feel that this applicant has not sufficiently demonstrated that there's a public need for a new provider, and that's what the Pasco County Code requires. The burden is on the applicant to demonstrate that existing providers are not adequately serving the market, and that requires facts and data. And really all we've seen in this presentation is, a representation that Advent Health, wants to work with AmeriCare, and that's not really what the law requires. The Pasco Code requires, facts and data to support the fact that, trips aren't being fulfilled, or that there's a lag in response time. And we've seen representations of that effect, but we've seen no actual data. And I sent in a written objection to the application. I hope you all have read that. I don't have enough time to go through everything in detail right now, but there are currently 8 providers with 42 ambulances in Pasco County. And if this application, along with the application of TransCare, which you'll hear later, is approved, that would be a 66% increase in capacity for ambulances in Pasco County. And that's just completely unsupportable, given that this last April, this board recommended the denial of a certificate of need to Century Ambulance because no need was demonstrated. And that's the same with the application here. There's no facts or evidence to show that there is a need, just some possible deal with Advent. And in our opposition, we submitted evidence that our AmeriCare's trip volume is lower than it was at the time that Century was denied. It's around 15 to 20% lower than the same time last year. So an approval of this application would be wholly arbitrary, given the total lack of evidence that existing providers aren't adequately servicing the county. And I know that AMR services Advent, and so does MedFleet, who I'm sure you'll hear from as well. And I believe that their trip volume is down significantly too. So again, there's been no need demonstrated. The application before you last year for an interfacility transport from Century Ambulance was denied because no need was demonstrated. And we believe that, you all should follow that well-reasoned decision and deny this application as well. There's other reasons for denial in my written opposition, and I would...
Thank you. Anyone else?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Williams, MedFleet Ambulance Service, 5334 Sunset Road, Newport Richey, 34652.
And you may start your comment.
Okay. Hello, Andrew Williams here from MedFleet. I would like to state that MedFleet does oppose this application based on lack of need. As was stated by the other COPCN holder, last year, right about this time, another applicant had come before you and was denied by a vote of 4-1 for a lack of need. And so I think it would be appropriate to look at what has happened between then and now. So on February 12th of this year, MedFleet was acquired by Patient Care EMS, one of the largest private ambulance companies in the country. And so now Pasco County has 2 of the largest private ambulance companies in the country that are operating and able to grow with the county in any way that's necessary. Additionally, Advent Health System, which we all know operates their own vehicles now, their own ambulances, was operating, I believe, 1 ambulance back at this time, and I do believe they're up to 5 ambulances now operating in Pasco County. So, and also Trinity Medical Center, in collaboration with MedFleet, is operating a dedicated ambulance for their patients. So the reason I bring these up is to show the capacity for ambulance transport has dramatically increased. And lastly, COVID happened, which has dropped our transport volume by over 30%. So what we want to do is make it clear that MedFleet has and continues to make great investment in infrastructure to accommodate Pasco County's growth. Right now, we've got ambulances sitting around doing a fraction of the volume that they used to do. We're working hard to try to generate the volume to keep our paramedics and EMTs working, but people are more afraid than ever to get into an ambulance and go to the hospital. So we have also been contacted by Mr. Bogue about 2 months ago to respond in the very same way for the very same thing. And we did submit a proposal to them for a contract to back them up. We've been a partner of theirs for decades. So I'm not sure. It sounds like the very same thing that he asked for from AmeriCare. To address the other question that I thought was very pertinent was on the balance billing. MedFleet.
Thank you.
Before we leave, Mr. Williams, can I just get point of clarification? You already know. Okay, I want to get clarification whether it's endorsements included, whether it's in part of the. Well, you can answer them. You can answer it from the sideline. Mr. Williams did submit letters in support of his position. I just want to make sure that on the record, nobody wants the board to consider those as well. We can ask him that if he calls in on the subsequent application.
That is it for callers?
Pardon?
That is it for callers right now.
Okay. Move on. So, should we have our discussion now? Ms. Fagan? Okay. So we're going to decide and then complete the voting on this section, correct? Okay. Anybody would like to make a comment before the voting on this issue? We're first going to vote on the COPCN for advanced life support and then for the basic life support.
Well, Dr. Pino, this is Mike. I think from a consistency standpoint and one that others to follow that may want to come into Pasco County, I think the ones we've turned down over the years has been because they've never been able to show the need. And staying consistent with that, I don't see any presentation of need. And so unless the board's will is to change how we proceed with these requests, then I'm going to find it hard to approve something.
Right. Would anyone else like to say something? Can't hear you, Dr. Boothby. Can anyone hear Dr. Boothby?
No, you didn't take it off. There you go.
All right.
Okay.
I would agree with Mr. Napier's statement, but also thank Dr. Yontek for describing some of the things he had mentioned. And I did not personally see Mr. Miller's information prior to this meeting. I don't know if anybody else did.
Yeah, I didn't get their written objection either. This is Yontek.
Right, right.
It was provided in an email just a few hours earlier today. It was in that big lounge download.
Right.
It was quite a long letter.
On that
Did see
note,
the email, just that.
Yeah. Yes, Jane?
just for the board, do you feel you have adequate information right now to make a decision? You have the option, if you feel you need additional time to review the information presented, to continue this matter to a subsequent date before you take a vote. That's the option of the board.
Okay. We'll hear from the board members. Anyone objecting to moving on and voting on this tonight? I'm personally okay with voting on it.
So am I.
Yeah, okay, great. I'm going to ask Ms. Fagan to take us through this vote one more time since we're doing it orally. Do we have to mention each category?
You could be practical. Normally this board votes by paper ballot and then the consensus is read. So since we are doing a virtual meeting, we're gonna have the clerk do a roll call vote. And we'll ask you to either say yes or no to each of the criterion listed on your voting sheet, and then what your summary vote is.
Okay. So let's take a moment to vote and then we'll have the clerk call the roll. Okay. Please call the roll.
Dr. Andrew Paliga?
You go through each criterion with him?
Yeah, I think you need to read each of the criteria and let us answer each one if we don't have it in front of us.
I mean, I've got it in front of me if you want me to read them, but.
Okay. Is there a need for the proposed services based on our adopted standards? That's the
From the
first
evidence
question.
presented today, I would say no.
Yes, read the question. It's just you read the question and do a roll call of all the other board members. Okay.
All right. Dr. Frederick Yontek?
Yes.
Dr. Charles Boothby?
I mean, I'm sorry. I thought you were reading the question. I was saying yes, that I was here. I think in the past, I thought there was like 4 questions we answered. And
yes, there is. There are.
So are we going to read all 4 questions and answer them? Or are we just doing a overall
I thought
answer?
we were supposed to read all 4 questions and answer them, correct?
We're asking the board to, normally you write this all down, but since we have, again, because we're doing a virtual meeting, we're going to ask you the question, each of these criteria, and have you vote on them.
So we should actually go back to Dr. Paliga.
I can go through all 5 criterion and read them and then say my answer if that's what.
Right. I think that would probably be best if we all did that. Go ahead, Dr. Paliga.
So for criterion 1, is there a need for the proposed services based on the adopted standard? I think based on the evidence that's been presented to the board, the answer would be no. For criterion 2, does the applicant appear to have the financial resources, both capital and operating, to perform the manner beneficial to Pasco County? I think from the statements, aside from Dr. Yontek indicating 2018 being omitted, it would most likely be yes. Are the proposed rates comparable to rates charged by other providers, and are they realistic? In reading through the other applications, I would say they are comparable, so that would be yes. Has the applicant committed himself or herself to meeting all statutory licensing and data requirements? From what I have presented to me, I would say yes. And has the applicant been professionally active in similar activities in this county or Florida or other parts of the country? And that would be yes.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please ask the next.
Next is Dr. Frederick Yontek.
Yes. So to the first criterion, is there a need for a proposed need in the county? I don't have the actual questions here, but the first criterion would be from what we discussed today and due to Chief Reardon's comments as well as the public comments, it appears to be no, there's not a need. Does the applicant have the financial wherewithal to operate? I think that's probably definitive yes. Have they proposed reasonable rates, reasonable comparable rates? That's yes. Have they met all state license requirements? Yes. And they've been professionally active in the state? Yes.
All right, Dr. Charles Boothby.
Yes, if it's all right, I'm just going to respond, one, to question 1, no, to question 2, yes, question 3, yes, question 4, yes, and question 5, yes.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Yes, and I'm going to follow Dr. Boothby's lead, and my response for question 1 is no. Question 2, yes. Question 3, no. Question 4, no. And question 5, no.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Yes, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For question 1, I would say no. Question 2, 3, 4, and 5, I would say yes. That's where I stand.
all right, Dr. Joseph Pino.
1, no. 2, yes. 3, yes. 4, yes. 5, yes. Before you report on that, should we go through the basic life support?
It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do that one next. Could you call the roll for that? And then at the end of that, we'll report the results of the voting.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
For criterion 1, the answer would be no. And then criterion 2, 3, 4, and 5, the answer would be yes.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
For criterion 1, the answer is no. For 2, 3, 4, and 5, the answer is yes.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
For criteria number 1, no. For 2, 3, 4, and 5, yes.
Mr. Mike Napier,
3, 4, and 5, no.
Mike, you were on mute for the first few.
Oh, sorry. For question 1, the answer is no. Question 2, yes. Questions 3, 4, and 5, no.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Question number 1's no. 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, and 4, yes.
and Dr. Joseph Pino.
1, no. 2, yes. 3, yes. 4, yes. 5, yes. You report the result.
All right, so based on the final vote, does the board approve or disapprove the final Census. May I have roll call vote? Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Disapprove.
Dr. Frederick Jontek,
Disapprove.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Disapprove.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Disapprove.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Disapprove.
Dr. Joseph Pino.
Disapprove. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification, is that vote for both UPCN? You got the list? That's for the first one?
We unanimously voted to disapprove this.
We're talking about the entire application, just for the record.
Yes.
Does the rest of the board agree with that? It's for the, you wrote it for the application for both CFPCN. The vote was not to approve.
Yes, that's correct.
We determined based on the advanced life support and the basic life support that there was not a need. Therefore, we disapprove. Okay, I would call to order the public hearing on COPCN application of the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay doing business as TransCare Medical Transportation to provide advanced life support interfacility transport and basic life support transport service. Staff report and recommendation.
So on this one, I'd like to break it down based off of the ALS and BLS. So for the ALS, staff recommends disapproval due to their ALS, not having their ALS certificate.
Okay.
But for the BLS, we confirmed that the applicant met all of the criteria, and we found no cause to deny it but they have to show need.
Thank you. Would the applicant's representative like to speak?
Yes. I'm President and CEO at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you all so much. This truly is an honor, and I'm very happy to be here. As I said, I'm Claire Reynolds. I have with me my team after our presentation.
Now you're going in and out.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Oh, okay. Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Next slide, please. I want to tell you a little bit about the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. We are a 501c3 not-for-profit organization whose mission is to ensure that in our community has to face crisis alone. Next slide, please. The Crisis Center of Tampa Bay provides a variety of services. We provide medical transportation, but we're also one information in the floor line for Hillsborough County, our trauma assistance program. We answer the suicide hotline for the state of Hillsborough County. We are our community certified rape crisis center and provide sexual assault services at our clinic on site. We also provide services specifically for veterans as well as for first responders. Our veterans line is statewide, and we do have a strong presence in Pasco County through that work. And we also partner with Pasco County schools to provide training for the Pasco County school employees, as well as being a member of the employee assistance program at Pasco County Public Schools. Next slide, please. So I want to tell you a little bit about our TransCare medical transportation. We've been serving the community in this capacity since 1983. We are a primary BLS transport for the city of Tampa, and we're back up to Hillsborough County. We do primarily 911 transports. That's about 85% of the business that we do. This means that Tampa Fire Rescue does not have to go out and provide that service. For basic life support, we're able to do that for them, saving their rescues for more critical care. We also do interfacility transport as well, hospital discharges, access to care, psychiatric transports. We have a plan to do ALS transportation. We're just awaiting our COCPN authorization. Next slide, please. I also want to talk a little bit about our innovations and what we've been able to do. Again, to meet our mission to ensure no one has to face crisis alone. We pride ourselves on providing behavioral transport services. We are the primary provider of that across all of Hillsborough County. And this prevents our law enforcement agencies or other types of agencies having to transport individuals who are under a Baker or a Marchman Act. We also have partnered with Advent Health to provide mobile integrated health. It is designed to provide in-home services, utilizing a paramedic for the treatment of chronic diseases. And it's really to address the needs of the high-need, high utilizers who utilize 911 on a very frequent basis. We provide special event standby. And I really want to comment on our COVID-19 testing. I agree with what all of you have said before around the downturn of transports, but that certainly didn't mean that there wasn't a need in the community. And we were able to pivot very quickly to provide mobile COVID testing in-home, in ALS facilities, in skilled nursing facilities, as well as actually in underserved communities, particularly Sun City and starting next week in Waimama, communities that wouldn't have had access otherwise. And we also provide educational opportunities to our community. We partner with several high schools, including Mitchell High School, as well as Wiregrass Ranch, to provide your students with the opportunities to do ride-alongs and learn more about the EMS career. Next slide, please. Our current fleet, we have 18 active BLS units, as you can see. We have 3 reserve BLS units and a training unit. We have 2 brand new Ford Transit ALS interfacility ready vehicles that we are so excited to be able to launch as soon as possible. We also have behavioral health vans, as well as the mobile integrated health units that are available on Monday through Friday, but also on weekends if needed. Next slide, please. Our proposed geographic location, we recognize that you do have other wonderful providers. We're looking to be able to provide assistance in your county. So our phase 1, which would be as soon as this we were voted in, would be to provide service to Dade City, Wesley Chapel, Zephyr Hills, and all points east of US 41. Phase 2 would be after 90 days, with phase 3 offered in 6 to 12 months or as needed, as you all determine the need and availability. Next slide, please. Pasco County needs. I certainly do appreciate the very vocal conversation that you all just had, and it really did give me an opportunity to think more on this, this slide right here. Our dispatch receives 2 to 3 calls a week from hospitals and from facilities looking for us to be able to provide that help and support, but we're forced to turn them away because of the COCPN requirements. Grace Point specifically, I want to point to. Grace Point is our central intake for our behavioral health, both Baker and Marchman Act. They provide Behavior and Marchman Act services for our entire county, and we provide their BLS service for them as well as van. One of the things that they've actually written a letter is asking for, saying that the acquisition of the Pasco CPN for the Crisis Center is vital, and that TransCare would be able to utilize BLS service units to transport elopement risk or combative patients from Pasco medical facilities to Grace Point for proper treatment. Also, should a patient need to be transported from Grace Point to a Pasco medical facility and the need of a BLS unit is necessary for safe transport, TransCare would be able to complete the transport in compliance with COCPN ordinances. And I think that's very, very important to talk about. I also want to make note here in this section about, again, I mentioned the point about us being able to pivot and being able to respond to other community needs. Our community is our client, and so to be able to respond with innovations like doing mobile COVID testing or all things that we would be able to do. And we want to also mention that any request for service shows that there's a need, and anytime an ALS or a BLS fire rescue truck has to be taken out of service to provide interfacility transports, we know that there's a need there. So I just really wanted to reiterate that. Next slide, please. These are population statistics that came from AHCA, the Agency for Healthcare Administration, showing your growth that's projected over the next series of years. And this ends in 2023 with a 564,000 resident projection. So clearly your community is growing, and we all know with that growth, you're going to need additional resources and supports. Next slide. So what makes us different? Why us as opposed to somebody else? Next slide. I have three things. I want to talk first about community investment. Because we operate as a nonprofit 501c3, we reinvest any profits right back into the community, meaning that we can utilize and do innovative things. In this picture, for instance, we were asked to go and do a drive-by for a little girl who was very sick. These are things that we take pride in being able to do. Next slide. We have strong regulatory compliance. We have partnerships with our state and local governments. We have full audit compliance with Medicare, Medicaid, all of the third-party insurance companies, as well as our other state and local partners. We're also CAS accredited. We're one of 19 in the state of Florida. We're also certified with the American Heart Association as a training site. So next slide, please. And finally, I just want to touch on our personnel training. Training is not all the same. And I just want to reiterate that not only are all of our personnel licensed and certified to the level of performance, they're also all certified as EVOC, and they also have additional agency education, including trauma-informed care, mental health first aid, psychological first aid, non-abusive psychological and physical intervention, as well as stop the bleed. Because one thing we know is when someone calls 911, they're not just in a medical crisis. They're also in a behavioral health crisis as well. There is some trauma. There is something that is happening. Our staff can treat the entire person, not just their medical issue. Next slide. We have professional endorsements, as you see here. Casey Chilton from Advent Health also reached out to us in partnership. So I think we were all kind of laughing. I understand they're just trying to get their needs met the best they can. And I did mention Tracy Smith, who's the director of Grace Point Wellness, specifically requested and feels that there's a strong need for our services. Next slide. And I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you so much for your thoughtful attention. We certainly do appreciate it. And like I said, myself and my team are right here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody pre-registered, madam? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Let's-
do you want to ask if the board members have any questions for you?
Okay. Any of the board members have any questions for the applicants?
This is Dr. Yantek. I do have, trying to keep it even with everybody. I will address the same question and also to say thank you for providing a charitable organization that serve the community. And with that, I probably know the answer, but still want to ask it. What is your policy on balance billing?
Thank you, sir. And I will turn this over to Scott, who is our Chief Financial Officer, as well as the Director of the Senior Vice President of Transcare.
Yes, as for previously, we do bill based upon what the approved rates are through Medicare, Medicaid, or agreements that we have through the insurance organizations. The one difference that we do have is that if individuals are unable to pay, we do not turn them over to collection. We provide the bill based on their ability to pay, and if they cannot, then we end up eating that.
Thank you.
Sir, would you mind stating your name and your position for the record, please?
My name is Scott Bender, and I am the Chief Financial Officer of the Crisis Center and Vice President of Transcare.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Then this is a public hearing. Let's hear from the people who are online.
Please state your name and address for the record. Mr. Miller, are you there? Are you there? Mr. Miller?
Hello?
Hi, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Jordan Miller again, 100 North Tampa Street, Suite 3700, representing American Medical Response.
Okay, go ahead and start your comment.
Okay, thanks again, everyone, for your time. And I will try not to repeat myself, but a lot of the same objections that AMR has to the TransCare applications are the same objections to the AmeriCare application. As this application doesn't even address the issue of public need at all, or how existing providers are not adequately serving the county. That's just simply not addressed in the application. And just earlier in the meeting, you all voted to deny AmeriCare's application, which was only for 5 permits, whereas TransCare's application is 23 permits when there are 42 existing ambulances serving the county, which is an over 50% increase just by itself. So, you know, there's no evidence that the 8 providers aren't getting the job done, much less the support of that kind of market expansion. And I'll just address a few of the specific issues brought up in the presentation. While it was mentioned that there was some kind of request from Grace Point for services, there's no reason existing providers couldn't service that facility. AMR provides mental health transportation as well, just as TransCare does in Hillsborough County. And there's no evidence of an actual contract between the parties or proposed contract. So there's no reason that existing providers couldn't service that need. Again, our submission shows that, volume is decreasing since Century Ambulance was denied last year, and that evidence stands undisputed really as the only data regarding need or really lack thereof. So, I mean, if Century Ambulance was denied last year, our capacity, our trip volume has gone down 15 to 20%. You heard MedFleet say that theirs has gone down 30%. That's really the only data that's been submitted that shows, what actual call volume is. So, and a few other just particular issues with the application. The budget submitted shows a projected operating loss in the first year. So to me, that would indicate further evidence that market won't support new providers. And also, as already been mentioned, that TransCare's application shows that it doesn't even have an ALS license. So that should certainly be fatal to its application as well. So in sum, if there's no need for 5 additional vehicles, there's certainly no need for 23.
Okay. Anyone else?
Certainly be fatal.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Williams, MedFleet Ambulance Service, 5334 Sunset Road, Newport Richey, 34652.
Mr. Williams, are you going to speak on behalf of the documents that you submitted via email?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead and proceed.
Okay. MedFleet opposes the application of TransCare. The only evidence that they, if you can call it evidence of need that they have submitted, was something about Grace Point, a mental health facility my knowledge, in Hillsborough County. Having a COPCN in Pasco will not help them. You can pick up in Hillsborough County and bring to Pasco. You can pick up in Pasco and bring somebody to Hillsborough without a COPCN. The COPCN only allows you to operate within Pasco, pick up and drop off in Pasco. So they have shown absolutely no need, no benefit to our community through this application. Medfleet has 150 employees, 85% of which live in Pasco County. Our headquarters is here. We have a substation in Zephyr Hills. We've made a commitment, decades-long commitment here. I see no commitment. They're not even saying that they're going to put a station here. An office, nothing like that. So I don't see any need. I don't blame this company. I'm sure they're a fine ambulance company. I don't blame them for wanting to increase their volume. But to come into Pasco County during a very precarious situation, to destabilize our EMS environment that's been very, very stable for decades, does not make sense. It does not serve the public need. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone pre-registered to speak or emails to read into the record?
They were discussed on.
I believe the board was already provided with copies of emails received, letters of support received from Medfleet.
Yes.
And they referenced as part of their presentation.
Okay. So then we'll proceed with the discussion. And then we'll vote. So, board members, anyone want to say anything? I have a question for Chief Reardon. Chief.
Yes, sir.
Their crisis is a mental health center, okay? Now they have this ambulance service. Are their paramedics providing anything different than your paramedics or Medfleet's paramedics or AMR's paramedics would because of the link with behavioral health? Are they trained differently?
So I visited their facility, saw the services that they provide. They are rather good. That's their main focus, was the mental health side of things. And so they have a little extra training in that probably my people, I know we don't put our people through what they've done. But to actually to Andrew Williams' point, that the transfer of patients that they were asking for can occur based off of coming from Hillsborough County into Pasco and then back out again.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to say?
Dr. Pino, this is Mike, and just more of a comment. I agree that the need hasn't been demonstrated. However, I do want to make note of having sat for the last 6-7 years on these presentations. I do like the holistic approach to the healthcare and community engagement that they presented, that they have a broad spectrum of addressing community needs, not just getting sick people from place to place, but a much broader engagement that I would like to see as we move forward. Those current operators in our community to take a note of that presentation. And I think as we move forward, we need to have that kind of a holistic approach on how we manage our healthcare in our community. And I think there were some lessons to be learned there.
Good point. Thank you, Mike. Okay. Are we ready to vote? Why don't we do that and then we'll, excuse me? Why don't we do that? Why don't we vote? And I only see one. Okay, there are two. Okay. Okay.
we'll do again as we did for the prior application, we'll go through each of the criterion for each of the applications for the two forms of COPCN, and then we'll do a cumulative roll call.
Okay. Okay, I think you can call the roll.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Just to, are we going to be voting on the ALS application since it seems
We're
as
gonna
though
be,
we even have
you know what, yes, let's vote on the ALS application first.
I mean, without them having approved certification, I mean, I don't think that they can actually work in the state at this stage, but criterion one, if there's a need, I'd say no. Do they have financial resources? I mean, they seem to be a large company, even though they report a loss, I would say yes. Are the rates comparable? Yes. Have they met all statutory licensing and data requirements? I'd say no. And five, have they been professionally active in Florida? I'd say yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Yes. Oh, so for criterion one, the answer is no. For criterion two, the answer is yes. Criterion three is yes. Criterion four is no. And the answer for criterion five is no.
okay, Dr. Charles Boothby,
Yes, for number one, no. Number two, yes. Number three, yes. Number four, no. Number five, no.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Sure. For number one is no. Number two, no. Number three, yes. Number four, no. And number five, yes.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Yes. Number one is no. Number two is yes. Number three is yes. Number four is no. And number five is no.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
1, no. 2, yes. 3, yes. 4, no. 5, yes. Would you like us to move on to BLS and then compile them all, or do you want to do them one at a time?
Why don't we just, it might be easier for the record, you would approve or disapprove or five COPCN. Okay. So let's just do a cumulative roll call for approve or disapprove for ALS. CP.
Okay, this is for ALS only.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Disapprove.
Approve or disapprove for ALS only.
Right. To disapprove the ALS.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Disapprove ALS.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Disapprove ALS.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Disapprove ALF. Yes.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Disapprove ALS.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
Disapprove.
And this is roll call for BLS. Dr. Andrew Paliga.
Is there a need, criterion 1? No. Criterion 2? Yes. Criterion 3? Yes. Criterion 4? Yes. Criterion 5? Yes.
Okay, Dr. Frederick Yontek.
For criterion 1, the answer is no. Criterion 2, 3, 4, and 5 is yes.
Dr. Charles Boothby.
For number 1, no. For 2, 3, 4, and 5, yes.
Mr. Mike Napier.
For 1, no. 2, no. 3, yes. 4, no. And 5, yes.
Mr. Scott Skurlock.
Number 1 is no. 2, 3, 4, and 5, yes.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
1 no, 2 yes, 3 yes, 4 yes, 5 yes.
So now the clerk will call another roll call vote for approval or disapproval of the application for a BLS UPCN.
Dr. Andrew Paliga.
Disapprove.
Dr. Frederick Yontek.
Disapprove.
Dr. Charles Boothby.
Disapprove BLS.
Mr. Mike Napier.
Disapprove.
Mr. Scott Skurlock.
Disapprove BLS.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
Disapprove. Okay, that was unanimous, so let's move on. I call to order the public hearing on COPCN application of MedTrans DBA Bayflight, Advanced Life Support Air Medical Transport. Staff report and recommendation.
Staff confirmed the applicant has met all the application criteria, and there was no cause for denial if need is determined.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Would the applicants or the applicant's representative like to speak?
Mr. Lopez, you're unmuted if you'd like to speak.
Twice.
Is
Can
he on
you
one?
see me now? Here we go.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. So we have our video come online here. All right, that should do it. So thank you for the technical difficulties here, for bearing with me. Good evening, Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board. My name is Matthew Lopez, address of 904 Jewel Avenue in Franklin, Tennessee. I am the Regional Director of Provider Relations for Bayfront Health, and I'll be speaking on behalf of our Bayflight medical transport helicopter and helicopters and system today on a presentation. Next slide. So on just a roadmap for today's presentation, we're going to talk first about convenience, and then we're going to move over to the necessity portion, we are going to talk briefly about an overview of the past history of base light in the Pasco County market. And then we're going to also review current metrics from performance dating from April 1st, 2020. You'll see why we chose April 1st, 2020 as a date to move forward from. Lastly, we'll round out about discussing the network and the resources that are applicable to the macro and granular market associated with Met grants. So we heard a little bit of feedback. In talking about convenience specifically, the Webster Dictionary defines convenience as suited for a particular situation, affording any accommodation or advantage. We look at convenience as being near at hand, which is exactly what the dictionary also defines convenience as. In respect to Pasco County, there's a Bell 407 helicopter that is currently the only air medical transport helicopter headquartered at the Brooksville Tampa Bay Regional Airport, also known as BKV, just on the other side of the Pasco County line. This helicopter has been headquartered there since 2005 and has been the aircraft of Bayfront Health operating in market. This Bell 407 helicopter that is operating out of the Tampa Bay Regional Airport services the 500,000 Pasco County residents. You'll see if you click on the mouse here that a map will pop up on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see a map if you click. You'll also see how there's a concentric circle down below the 80% that you can see of Pasco County that is covered. That concentric map is the second helicopter that Bayflight also operates and has operated out of our southern location. This strategically aligns us with being the closest, most appropriate aircraft to the entire contiguous Pasco County, as well as Hernando County, Pinellas County, and Hillsborough County as well. Next one. The Webster Dictionary also defines the term necessity. And when we look at the term necessity, it's pressure of a circumstance or a state that is in need. Also the quality or state of being in need. In respect to Pasco County, Florida, the Bell 407 has been on numerous flights since April 1st. These include scene flights and interfacility flights within the Pasco County market. Without this Bell 407 helicopter being operated in Pasco County, the closest, most appropriate aircraft would either be coming from Inverness, which is north of Citrus County, or north in Citrus County, or be coming from the Tampa Bay Airport. This leaves a crucial unmet need to timely air medical response. If you'd click, please. What you can see here, again, from concentric circles is mileage and response time. Those are 17-mile radiuses. So the Pasco County helicopter, which is located out of BKV, falls within that area of responsibility in the first concentric circle, except for a very small finite area of the lower part of the county. Next slide. Now, as a regional director for provider relations, I think it's incumbent to also not forget about the patient. And while we talk about COPCNs and applications, I think what convenience and necessity mean to our citizens might mean something different to us. And what it means as a citizen is when your critical moment happens and you require the life-saving intervention of an aircraft and the life-saving intervention of a Pasco County well-trained ALS responder, minutes matter most. And when minutes matter most and we are fighting against the golden hour to provide that critical delivery, transport, and treatment to definitive care, we don't have the opportunity to waste time. Next slide. So there's been a little confusion, so I wanted to review past and present state of Bayflight. Bayflight was established on November 13th in 1986. Bayflight's mission was to basically bring the trauma center to the scene, and Bayfront Health has been very successful in operating the Bayflight program since inception. The program has continued to evolve over the years as medicine has evolved over the years. Medicine has changing variables associated with clinical needs of stroke, of cardiac, of surgical needs, and pediatric needs, as well as neonatal, like we've heard today. But on April 1st, if you click for me, please. On April 1st, 2020, Bayfront Health chose to dissolve its relationship with Air Methods Corporation. This dissolution of relationship came because of being northwinded to some Federal Aviation Administration and U.S. Attorney inquiries for civil penalties being levied on aircraft associated with the Bayflight name out of Tampa. We chose to explore those events and found that 51 times there was a aircraft with our Bayflight name that was flying patients that had been requested to, for safety standards, stand down in operation in the Tampa market. When we found out about that in 2019 in November, we chose to align with the MedTrans Corporation that has a stellar commitment to safety, operates a proven safety management system that is second to none, and it's MedTrans' commitment to safety as a core value that aligned with our strategic partnership for aviation. I think it's also very incumbent to know that Bayflight equals Bayfront, and the Bayfront Medical Center chose to realign as with its vendor, but not realign with its commitment to the community that Bayfront Health serves, from the north of Citrus County with Seven Rivers Hospital all the way to as far south as Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte, Florida. Next slide. Reviewing some metrics that are specifically to Pasco County. There have been 15 helicopter flights since April 1st, where we have landed on scene, not on an interfacility hospital roof. In April, the average minutes from liftoff to arrival on scene were 10.3 minutes. 61 seconds elapse in the time it takes our call takers to receive a call and dispatch the aircraft and have our pilot check for weather. I think it's also very important to know that with our strategic air partnership with MedTrans Corporation, we've brought a localized dispatch center to the market, not a dispatch center that is located many states away in Nebraska, as our previous vendor had a dispatch center located in. This means in total, we've completed 16 missions from the time data was pulled for the month of April and the early part of May. And we're very proud of the program thus far. In our constant quest with Bayfront Health for the need to be more effective and efficient in our community, we also have identified some opportunities. And some opportunities that we're going to discuss here are on the opposite side of the screen because we believe in transparency. 7 out of 13 requests that have come in from an ETA standpoint have gone through a different process, a process that chooses, rather than using a localized dispatch center, to use a dispatch center out of Omaha, Nebraska. What that means is we add, on average, an additional 4.2 minutes to every single helicopter that is dispatched in Pasco County currently. That process is a detriment to the citizens and to your guests and to our emergency first responders who call the helicopter. And when minutes matter most, you can think sometimes the difference in between 4 or 5 minutes might seem mundane on a computer screen, but has many, many repercussions downstream. Additionally, 37% of the flights, first seen flights in Pasco County, have been vectored to either the wrong LZ, the wrong GPS coordinates, or have led to errors associated, which is why with the COPCN application, we think it is incumbent to also change the dispatch process and parameters to letting Bayflight and Medtrans be the sole holder of dispatching air ambulances in your area for the efficiency and effectiveness of your patients. Next slide, please. So from a network of resources standpoint, you can see the other helicopter, which is located right now in our St. Petersburg market. If you click again. Many people aren't aware of the Medtrans name, so I think I'd bring a little bit of clarity to who Medtrans is and who Global Medical Response is. GMR Inc. is an industry leader in air, in ground, and they also participate in residential fire services in other markets throughout the United States. There's 38,000 employees that make up the GMR network, and they are known primarily in the areas of emergency and patient relocation services in the United States, but as GMR, they're also known throughout the world. They are an international company. Next slide. Let's talk about Bayflight 4, which is the helicopter that is placed here in Brooksville. And I implore every one of you, if you are not familiar with the aircraft, to come out and take a look. It's truly a wonderful pillar in our Brooksville market. 911 Whiskey Alpha has a goal, and its goals and its values are directly aligned with Bayfront Health. That's why Bayflight's mission is to continuously improve and better serve our community. And we highlighted some of the reasons why and how Bayflight 4 is meeting those needs. One more click, please. Medtrans is operating our pilot, our flight nurse, and our flight paramedic. And I think it's also very important to know that Bayflight believes in a community model, which is why our paramedics and our nurses are sourced right from the backyard of your neighborhoods. And we implore any flight paramedics that are looking to fly to apply and continue to fly with us, as well as nurses in your county. From a capability standpoint, you can see some of the basic capabilities that we have on our aircraft. Because when a new aircraft comes to town, there's multiple things from DEA licenses and training that are there. It has hindered blood being on board the aircraft, but you can see in less than 15 days, whole blood will be added to the cadre of capabilities that Bayflight is providing, and we feel is incumbent to provide to the care of our patients. That being said, to prove convenience, we are the only aircraft that has ever been in your market since 2005. To prove necessity, Bayflight is Bayfront, and Bayfront is Bayflight. In this case, we have chosen to transition away from our vendor, Air Methods Corporation, for reasons that we just shared. But you can see that the certificate for convenience and necessity has been proven by our helicopter being the helicopter in the area since 2005. Next slide. We would welcome if you'd click, please. We'd welcome any questions that you have.
Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. Lopez?
I do have a question. For your aircrafts, as I'm sure you're aware, Central Florida, we have a lot of issues with fog ceilings and things of that nature. Are they equipped with IFR protocols, and are they certified for such?
Both aircraft are equipped with instrument flight rule capabilities. However, from a visual flight rules capability, we do check all weather for all flights for the safety of our crew members.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I have a few questions. This is Dr. Yontek. I guess, is there any, turning to Chief Reardon, is there any complaints against Bayflight before and Bayflight now as the before and after companies? Was there any issues with the 14 runs that we just had?
So if we're discussing since April 1, when the change occurred and the Bayflight name changed vendors, there has been an increase in delay of receiving a helicopter. I've gotten complaints from crews that, which I account to being the new kid on the block and maybe getting their feet wet, but the crews out in the field don't feel that it's the same quality that was originally in the other Bayflight company. But I haven't heard any complaints from the receiving hospital of the patient that was delivered that there was any problem in the care that was given. They just have slower times on scene that we're more accustomed to an arrival, a changeover of patient, and leaving the scene, but there appears to be longer scene times by the new company.
There was also the mention of FAA complaints against the prior company. As far as with Medtrans, do they have published, or can we get a rate of accidents per 1,000 hours or per hour flown? Basically, their accident rate per hour.
Was that directed at the presenter?
Oh, that was at the presenter. Is he gone?
No.
Mr. Lopez?
No, I see his name still up there, so.
Yeah, I see his name, Lopez. Mr. Lopez.
He has a little icon saying that he's got low bandwidth in his local area.
Okay. And then my next question would be, just as everybody else, what is their policy on balance billing, especially with Medtrans? And he's not able to answer that question, I guess. All right, well, I'll tell you a oh, no, I thought he might have bounced back. I will tell you a personal story about this company, Medtrans. And when you have to deal with a patient calling you crying on a phone, or actually the patient's mother calling you crying on the phone, it's pretty traumatic. So I had an infant that we reported out of Highlands County to All Children's operated by Medtrans. And simple flight, but I got a call 6 months later from the mother saying that they were going to be taken to collections because they didn't pay their bill. She had full insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield. She sent me the invoices and everything. It was a $41,000 bill.
Hey, folks, I'm sorry, my phone is muted this entire time by the presenter. So I would like to answer every one of the questions that you just brought up.
Oh, awesome. Okay. We were wondering where you went.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted.
There he is.
There we are.
All right.
Okay, so
I'll finish my story.
We could take the balance billing question, or we could take the first question that you asked as well.
Balance billing, since we were talking about that last.
Okay. Let's start with balance billing first. For patients that are in network and that are associated with Medtrans Corporation, if patients are in network with the insurance provider, there is no balance billing. For patients that do not have a ability to either be in network with a insurance provider associated with Medtrans, Medtrans, because they are associated with Bayfront Health in this particular case, have a compassionate billing program that is associated. The compassionate billing program associated is basically that Medtrans will do everything in its power to work with the patient to provide the capability of them working to pay their bill. very similar situation. Their compassionate care model is quite appropriate in this particular case. While I understand that you had a different circumstance in Highlands County, I can assure you that Highlands County was not associated with Bay Flight or Bayfront Healthcare.
It was all children's, same company, MedTrans. $41,000 bill. Blue Cross paid $5,000. They came after the family for $36,000 and put them on a payment plan. Now, I don't know about you, but I think I have Blue Cross. I actually have Blue Cross. I would think that's going to cover most of the bill, and it didn't. So now they basically had to pay for another car. I mean, they're not a well-to-do family, but they're not poor either. So they had the capability to pay it. So now they're on an insurance, payment plan for 5 years on a bill. I don't even think their hospital bill was $36,000 or $41,000. It was an overnight stay on a baby. So it was just a pretty expensive charge. So
yeah,
that's a hot topic right now.
In this particular case, with Bayfront Health, we would explore as a case-by-case basis associated. We can look to find if Blue Cross Blue Shield is in contract with MedTrans or in network with MedTrans for you as an additional Dr. Yontek. But
additional painful question. I'm sorry. And how many companies are you in contract with then, in network?
I cannot speak behalf of MedTrans Corporation in what they're in contract with or not in contract. I'm with Bayfront Health. I believe Gary is on the line from a public comment standpoint. I'm sure he would be able to help that out. But with the technical difficulties, he would be standing right next to me in person to represent the MedTrans Corporation. But this process has not been as
COVID's a mess.
Yes.
And I guess the last question, what was the accident rate?
From an accident rate, there have been no accidents within the state of Florida associated with any of our MedTrans helicopters. If you are looking for an accident and incident rate, I would also implore you to look into the Miami corridor, the Shands corridor, and the North Florida from Pensacola to Panama City corridor, where MedTrans also operates helicopters. No incidents.
Okay. Good to hear. That ends my questions. Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, then I would like to move on. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone pre-registered to speak? Emails, anything that you have to read into the record? Okay, then we'll have some discussion amongst the board members. Thank you. Chief, I'm confused.
I believe there was one other thing that was associated before, which was how has the performance been since the first 15 or 16 flights in market?
We're done. We're done. We have now this MedTrans Corporation, and then we have the other one, which is Rocky Mountain. Who were they before they became Rocky Mountain?
Okay, so Rocky Mountain is who used to be Bayflight.
Okay.
That's the vendor that they parted ways with.
Okay.
But they also use different names. So you have Air Methods, which is Rocky Mountain's Holdings.
That's why I was confused. Okay. And so how many helicopters do we need? How many different helicopter services do we need? Is there a need for 2?
We have operated in the past with 3. So it's not uncommon to have that many services out there.
Okay.
What needs to happen is that when they're out there, they need to work together to make a unified approach to response instead of market sharing an area.
Okay. Now, Bayfront is a trauma center, level 2, I believe, right?
Yes.
So they're home ported at Bayfront and up in Brooksville. So
yes,
is their mission, since he's representing Bayfront, as he said, is their mission to take the patients to Bayfront?
I know So while it wasn't necessarily addressed, the agreement that we would, if he had a COPCN within this county, would be that that patient is taken to the closest trauma center. They shouldn't be flying over, which that is commonplace anywhere. So I don't think they would be doing anything different, but I haven't seen anything to show that didn't happen.
Okay. I just want to make.
So would they, this is Yantek with a question too. So that means that they would be going to Bayonet Point, which is essentially the closest trauma center? Or are they going to fly past that and take it? They're not going to take them all the way down to Bayfront, which is, 2 hours from us, or an hour and a half.
No, they should be taking them to Bayonet Point. And unless it's a burn patient, which would have to go to Tampa General.
Go to Tampa
or
General.
Pediatric, that would go to someplace else other than Bayonet Point.
Right.
All children's are Tampa General.
And they could also be going to Lake.
Or St. Joe's.
In my mind, hello?
Yes.
In my mind, it depends on where you are in the county. If you're in the east side of the county, the level 2 trauma center would be Tampa General or St. Joseph. If you're on the west side of the county, it would be Bayonet Point.
Correct. And that's the closest trauma center, right?
Right.
That's affirmative. Lakeland, St. Joe's.
Right. So it depends on the helicopter service. And it depends on the response times. They can go by ground or they can go by air. But that all comes into play with this whole situation with the COPCN for these people. But I don't necessarily believe that we need that. I think we already have coverage. But that's my opinion.
Chief Reardon, this is Dr. Paliga. You made mention of them not getting along. What kind of issues are we seeing?
Not really. I didn't mean to say that they didn't get along. There's just hiccups along the way. So while they discussed that transfer or dispatching out of another state, there was added delay in getting a helicopter into the air. So while both companies can get the helicopter up in the air in a timely fashion, there's a dispatching delay that occurs because of transfer from one to another, because Air Methods currently is the only COPCN holder in this county. And so we can't necessarily reach out to somebody who isn't certified to be here yet. So that's why we had that transfer. So up until a couple weeks ago, we were having Air Methods take the call, which they have an app that dispatch only hits a button, tells what the address is, and it goes on an app to their dispatch. The problem was in the, hey, we're not the closest anymore, because they were coming out of the New Bay flight was coming out of Hernando, which was technically closer. But the delay in dispatching was making it a longer response time. So last week, I suspended Air Methods from calling the New Bay flight, only because the time difference between leaving Tampa to come here was shorter than what the delay is in the dispatching.
So
thank you.
Your recommendation is still that we would use 2 helicopter services?
Yes, I think a lot of the problem was they're new to the area. So I know our crews, they're new to our crews. They have a smaller helicopter that's less friendly to our crews. They don't have a stretcher on it. They just come with a backboard. So basically it rolls back in time to when St. Joe's had their original helicopter with the side load. And it's not as smooth as when Air Methods shows up, and that I'm accounting a little bit for the new kid on the block, and the fact that they have a smaller helicopter that they're serving us that we're usually accustomed to.
The 407 is a small helicopter. It's definitely not like the Eurocopters or anything like that. There's not much room in there, even if you can do chest compressions in there.
My question to that, though, is if they don't have their own stretcher and things, does that mean that they are limited to flying strictly to hospital locations where they can pick up a stretcher? And that means they won't be able to help in the field?
No, I would in totality because so back in the day, we're talking when Care Flight had their helicopter, they were using they would show up with a litter and that would come to our stretcher and then put their litter on our stretcher with the patient. Then we would roll our stretcher over to their helicopter, and then they would take that litter off of our stretcher and put it in the helicopter. It's an added step. Our guys are not familiar with that because most of the guys in the field never were exposed to that. That's when the unfamiliarity with our crews and their crews causes a little uncertainty by our guys to reach out to me to say, hey, who are these people and how come we lost the other helicopter we have? But I'm not saying that they're not capable of doing it. I think that it's just the speed bump of coming into the new neighborhood, if you will.
Well, I think we have to go back to need. Do we need them? And if the answer to that question is yes, and that's why Air Med was calling them, I just want to make sure that there's a need for two and for this service.
I believe there is a need for multiple helicopters because there's basically plenty of business to go around. So while it's not as busy as like the other private ambulance companies say, hey, we've slowed down or whatever, trauma is a constant, right? So while it does ebb and flow based off of summer versus winter versus whatever, it's a constant. What isn't a constant is the mass casualty things that happen that needs multiple helicopters all at one time, all right now. We don't necessarily have that capability to the point that I could take care of a busload of people rolling over that all needed to go to a trauma center by air.
I see a lot of inter-facility transfers by helicopter, either because there's a specialized service that's needed at it, or a trauma comes into one of the other facilities and they send them over to Bayonet. But I've seen even patients with severe COVID who've been put on ECMO transferred to Largo from Bayonet, and they've gone by helicopter. So I'm thinking if there's going to be that kind of volume for them, can one company support that?
I would say that just like I did all the other ones, while I don't need them necessarily for that inter-facility thing, I think there is business. I don't know for sure because I don't have the paperwork or the statistics to show that. I do know that we have called on numerous occasions for multiple helicopters at one time. So on the emergency response side of it, like I said, for fire rescue, more resources, the better that we can get our hands on. And I believe that the concern of our crew members out in the field will go away with time and training with working with us on a more constant basis. But there is definitely a difference in the two services.
How many helicopters does the other company have?
The other company, which will come on, I believe they're coming on
They're
after.
next, yes.
But they have one currently in Inverness. That was the one that was originally in Hernando, and they moved up to Inverness. And then they have one at the hospital. The Tampa airport. They have one at that location. So that one can come into Pasco almost as fast. That's why I had that change happen.
All right. Does anyone else want to say anything?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. So Chief Reardon.
Go ahead.
So you believe there's a need for additional helicopter service coming into Pasco County? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, there's a need.
Okay, so that's what we're after right now. Thank you.
If I could chime in, I think it would be a mistake to preclude any helicopter service at this time, because as Chief Reardon said, if you need them, then you need them. And if you don't need them, it's not like they're charging for a service that they're not providing.
Thank you, Dr. Boothby. Okay. So let's take a moment and vote on this, and then we'll go through the oral roll call. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's call the roll.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Criterion 1, yes. Criterion 2, yes. Criterion 3, I mean, compared to other companies, I think that's going to be yes. Criterion 4, yes. And Criterion 5, yes.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Hello, give me a second here. I'm looking at the criteria. I have a small screen, so it's hard to see. As for, it keeps jumping around. Okay, there we go. As for criterion 1, that's a yes. For criteria 2, that's a yes. Criteria 3 is a no. Criteria 4, yes. And criteria 5, yes.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Yes, for criterias 1 through 5, it's all yes.
Mr. Mike Napier,
For criterias 1 through 5, all yes.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Criterion 1 through 5, yes.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
1 through 5, yes. It sounds like that will be unanimously approved. So, officially? Yes, okay, good. I'll call to order the public hearing to consider the amendment of the COPCN currently held by Rocky Mountain Holdings LLC, DBA as Bayflight, relating to the provision, oh, wait, yeah, didn't we just do Bayflight? Oh, we did. What's going on, Chief? This is
Rocky Mountain
Bayflight
Holdings.
relating to the provisions of advanced life support air medical transport in Pasco County to reflect the change in ownership of the current COPCN holder to Rocky Mountain Holdings LLC DBA Air Life.
Right, that's the next one, but do we have to do an official approve or disapprove through the clerk roll call?
I think that.
Already did.
Well, it was all unanimous,
They,
so it's unanimously approved.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Okay.
Approve.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
I'm going to have to disapprove.
We're talking about the helicopter? The first one again?
Yes, for reasons that I cite. For reasons that I cite, and I know I won't change the overall board, but I really think that surprise billing and balance billing is just a really unfair practice, and I want to strike that home.
Great, you should always vote your conviction. Wonderful.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Approve.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Approve.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Approve.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
Approve.
Motion passes.
Okay, I call to order the public hearing to consider the amendment of the COPCN currently held by Rocky Mountain Holdings, LLC, DBA Bayflight relating to the provision of advanced life support air medical transport in Pasco County to reflect a change in ownership of the current COPCN holder to Rocky Mountain Holdings LLC, DBA Air Life. Staff report and recommendation.
Staff recommends approval of the name change.
Okay. Would the applicant or applicant's representative like to speak?
Go ahead, Mr. Turner.
Okay. Unmute yourself. I think you must be muted. We're not hearing you.
I'm unmuted on my end. Are you
Okay,
able to
now
hear
you're
me?
good. Now you're good.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Matt Turner, and I'm the area manager of Central Florida for Air Methods, Rocky Mountain Holdings, and Air Life. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. We did submit some slides. I don't know if that presentation is available.
Mr. Turner, this is Jane Fagan with the County Attorney's Office. Unfortunately, because you did not have them in by the deadline, we cannot share them with the board. However, you can speak to the content of them during your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about our request to amend our existing COPCN and our desire to continue to serve the citizens of Pasco County as we have always done, but under our new brand name. While Air Methods has been part of the Bayflight brand since its inception in 1986 in one form or another, due to recent contract changes, we have rebranded our local fleet as Air Life. Air Life 4, as previously alluded to, is now located at the Inverness Airport. Air Life 3 is currently located at Tampa International Signature Aviation. Air Life 2 remains in Northport and Sarasota, and our sister aircraft, LifeNet 5, remains in Polk County. So we have 4 aircraft in the local flying area. Aside from changes to our name and address, everything else remains the same. Our unmatched flight crews, our medical director, our protocols, local leadership, and customer service are all the same, consistent quality you've come to expect from us. We've been serving the Central Florida area and the citizens of Pasco County for many years. We really do bring the trauma center to your scene call with several clinical qualities and enhanced capabilities that really truly differentiate us from other air medical providers in the market. Our teams move with a sense of urgency, and with our stretcher and reloading airframe, we pride ourselves by basically keeping the rapid in rapid transport. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, board members.
I'll answer the monkey in the room question, or ask that question. The prior presentation alluded to some sort of FAA violations. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, those are not settled, and they were at no point a danger to aircraft operation or safety. While those are still in the process of being mitigated with the FAA and the air vendor or the manufacturer Eurocopter, the difference of managing that was between the Eurocopter vendor and the FAA, and we kind of got caught in the middle of that. We were following the recommended and approved maintenance procedures through Eurocopter and Airbus, and that's kind of where the disagreement stands. It remains unsettled. It was certainly a big topic back when it occurred back in, I want to say 2014, but that still remains to be unsettled.
So that more was a maintenance kind of following manual versus not a medical care issue as far as crew goes?
No, it was not a quality of care issue, sir. It was there was some rust on a piece of equipment that was still fully functioning, and there was a disagreement between the maintenance plan as directed by the manufacturer of the aircraft versus the local FAA examiner, and that is why it still remains unsettled.
Okay. Do you happen to know your accident rates? Since we asked you the question.
I did hear your question earlier, and I was trying to pull up ours. I do know that per 100,000 hours, we are below the industry standard, even though we are the largest air medical provider in the nation.
How about, and then the last question, and then I'll step down. Thank you. Balance billing. What is your policy on that? How does that work?
A few years ago, as many of us are aware, the air medical industry, really suffered from some negative issues surrounding balance billing. We reevaluated our whole process a few years ago and came up with a twofold approach to that. The first focus was really focusing on, the relationship that with our patients that did not end at the time of the end of the transport. It really focused on getting that patient advocacy throughout the billing process as well. So the other piece was we focused on in-network status. So for Florida, we are in network status with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida, which is the largest insurer in the state, along with several other capital health plans, Humana, Global Excel Management, Leggett and Platt, Employee Benefit Fund, Med Partners, and Three Rivers. So we have worked diligently with not just our government affairs and associates with the state of Florida, but also worked very diligently in getting in network. So for our patients who we transport, minus Medicare and Medicaid and private insurance, those would not receive any balance bill. We do have a compassionate care piece. I'm looking at all of Florida transport, not just of the aircraft that I've listed, but all of the air medical, air methods, Rocky Mountain helicopters in the state of Florida. The average out-of-pocket expense for all of those transports in 2018 was $217. In 2019, it dropped to $169. Average out of pocket,
Great.
minus co-insurance and things like that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to ask a question of Mr. Turner? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Do we have anybody on the line? Okay. Let's hear from them.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Avenue, Franklin, Tennessee, 37064.
Okay, and go ahead and start your comment.
Certainly. Based on historic precedent that was associated tonight in listening to the COPCNs, the burden of proof to provide additional data to support an additional COPCN for air methods is incumbent on the aircraft and flight vendor. In this particular market, all historical data that is based on an additional aircraft having a COPCN within Pasco County is not that of Air Methods, but rather that of Bayflight. Because Bayflight, as associated and has shared, has been the associate brand of Bayfront Health Helicopter Program, it is of our understanding that the burden of proof to provide an additional aircraft has not been supported. Furthermore, our aircraft does have a land lease in the Tampa Bay market, which is where, as Chief Reardon had shared, the aircraft would be responding from for the North Pasco County market. So we have not utilized that base because there needs to be a couple of upgrades to the existing fuel tank, and it was also needing an FDA drug license to be associated with that particular location. Once the aircraft is dispatched to that location, which will be very soon, it is of our understanding that the 2 aircraft operated by Medtrans Corporation will meet the certificate of convenience and necessity and speed that Chief Reardon associated with, also flying with an EC-135 brand new helicopter. Therefore, because of precedent, because of history, and because of not showing with any available and associated data that an additional aircraft is needed in market from the areas of operation, and also seeing that the geographic boundaries have been abandoned by the aircraft located in Hernando County, now located up to Inverness, a COPCN burden has not been shared by the vendor. No evidence to display that additional time or an additional need in market is there right now. I would also suggest that the minimum safety violation that was associated can be found on justice.gov. And if the U.S. Department of Justice has found that this is not a minor safety infraction, but rather a significant safety infraction associated with a pedostatic tube that would show airspeed as a serious safety concern, and allege that air method.
Mr. Chairman, again, James Bacon with the County Attorney's Office. Point of clarity, this current application is not for a new CAPCN. They already have a CAPCN.
Right.
We're simply asking to their new.
To a new owner, to a new name.
So it's not, so while you still have to consider the same thing, it's comparable to what we did, like just recently within the last year with Netflix, when
Right.
they were.
We did it this year in January. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so do we have anything we have to read? Okay, then let's move on. Any discussion among the board?
This is just a point of information, is that correct?
Yes.
So is the approval going to this?
They're changing their owner from whoever it was to Rocky Mountain Holdings, yeah.
So then we're not really going to be going through all of the different criteria, and it's just whether or not we approve the name change?
Well, Ms. Fagan said that we have to go through the same criteria.
Right, basically, so you're looking at whether or not the new entity is qualified to fulfill the obligations, specifically the financial obligations, et cetera. But I think the need, since we're not going through a full application process, the need is secondary to, you don't have to establish a need because they already have a CPCS. The question is whether the new entity is coming in to take over their business
Is viable, yeah, okay. All right, good. All right, any discussion amongst us, amongst the members of the board? Anyone like to say something? If not, let's look at this and vote. So are we to not worry about criterion 1? The answer is already yes, right? Okay, so we're just concerned with 2 to 5. All right, thank you. Then, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Criterion 1, not applicable. Criterion 2 through 5, yes.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Criterion 1 through 5, yes.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Criteria 2 through 5, yes.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Criteria 2 through 5, yes.
Mr. Scott Sherlock,
Criteria 2 through 5, yes.
Dr. Joseph Pina.
And criteria 2 through 5, yes. So report the results.
I'm gonna do the roll call for everything, but everything was unanimous. Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Approval.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Approval.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Approve.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Approve.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Approved.
Dr. Joseph Pino.
Approve.
Motion passes.
Okay. Any comments from the board? If not, I'd like to address some miscellaneous business. Dr. Boothby and I.
One more thing at the end.
Okay. What?
We're asking the board if they would, there's a motion and a second from the board to authorize EMS advisory board to send a letter to the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners.
Well, that's what I was going to speak about, but, you know, I think that you put that paragraph ahead of the miscellaneous business, you know, and I think that I would like to just say that Dr. Boothby and I both had the opportunity and the pleasure to work alongside Dr. Don Verling for many years. And he chaired this committee for the last few years. And before that, he was a member. And in fact, over 20 years ago, he was the one who brought me onto this body. So I think it's only fitting that we do something to remember his efforts here at the board. So at the close of this meeting, we're going to make a request for a motion and a second that we sign a letter that I as chairman will sign it, but a letter to the Board of County Commissioners reflecting that we want the Board of County Commissioners to draft a resolution to recognize the service of Dr. Verling for over 20 years, probably over 25 years on this board. So
Take the motion.
Actually, I think it's over
thank
30.
you.
So,
Pardon? Yeah, I
It's
think it was
over
over
30.
30, right? Oh, my gosh. We're getting old.
yeah, time flies, my friend.
Yeah. So if I can call, do you want to call the roll for that vote?
I make the motion.
I'll
Yeah,
second
you
it.
made motion. Is there a second? You second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Gonna call the roll.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Aye.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Aye.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
A hearty aye.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Aye.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Aye.
Dr. Joseph Pino.
Aye. You sound like a pirate there, Charlie.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Oh, wait a minute, you know, Ms. Megan always has another thing. What?
Parliamentary. If we're at the close of the meeting, we generally ask the board members to make a motion authorizing you to send, to sign a letter.
Well, I thought we just did that.
No, sir, we just did something for recognizing Dr. Beardley. This is to allow you to pass on the recommendation of the board to the Board of County Commissioners to discuss approval or disapproval of the application here today.
No, that's why I love attorneys. Go ahead.
I make the motion, just what she said.
I second it.
Great. You gonna call the roll again?
Well, last time.
Dr. Andrew Paliga,
Aye.
Dr. Frederick Yontek,
Aye.
Dr. Charles Boothby,
Aye, aye.
Mr. Mike Napier,
Aye.
Mr. Scott Skurlock,
Aye.
Dr. Joseph Pino.
Aye. Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Great. The meeting is therefore concluded. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you
It was
all.
a very unusually long meeting tonight. Bye-bye, guys. Nice seeing you, Charlie.
Thank you.